The first time Ryan Richards saw him, she was frantically trying to fix her niece's hair ribbon backstage at the Oakwood Community Center. The annual spring ballet recital was minutes from starting, and 7-year-old Lily was on the verge of tears because her ribbon had come undone. "Hold still, sweetie," Ryan whispered, her fingers working quickly to ready the pink satin. "There we go, perfect." Lily's smile returned instantly. "Do I look like a real ballerina, Aunt Ryan?" "The most beautiful ballerina in the world," Ryan assured her, smoothing the tutu and giving her niece a quick kiss on the forehead. "Now go find your spot with the other swans. I'll be right in the audience, front row center." As Lily scampered off to join her classmates, Ryan gathered her things and hurried to find her seat. The small auditorium was packed with proud parents and family members, all clutching bouquets and cameras. She spotted her sister Emma waving from the front row and squeezed past several seated guests to reach her. "Did you get her ribbon fixed?" Emma asked anxiously. "Crisis averted," Ryan confirmed, settling into her seat. "She looks adorable." It was then that she noticed the empty seat beside her, and moments later, a tall figure slid into it with a whispered apology. "Sorry, excuse me," he said, his voice low and pleasant. Ryan glanced over and was immediately struck by the man's appearance. Impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that seemed almost excessive for a children's ballet recital, he had dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples, and the kind of jawline that belonged on magazine covers. What caught her attention most, though, were his eyes, a warm brown that crinkled at the corners when he smiled apologetically at her. "No problem," Ryan replied, suddenly conscious of her own hastily assembled outfit, a simple blue dress she'd thrown on after rushing from her dance studio across town. The lights dimmed before she could say anything else, and the recital began. Ryan watched proudly as Lily and the other young dancers twirled and leap across the stage, some with more grace than others. When Lily performed her small solo, Ryan couldn't help but beam with pride. She clapped enthusiastically and noticed her neighbor doing the same. "Your daughter?" he asked during a brief transition between performances. "Niece," Ryan corrected with a smile. "That's my sister," she added, nodding toward Emma. He nodded. "My niece is in the second act, Sophia Denton, the taller one with the dark hair." "Oh, I know Sophia," Ryan said, realizing the connection. "She's one of my students," his eyebrows raised with interest. "You're a teacher here?" "I'm the owner and lead instructor at Point Perfect Dance Academy downtown," she explained. "I teach the advanced classes, but I know all our students." "So you're Miss Richards," he said, recognition dawning. "Sophia talks about you constantly. I'm Tyler Denton, her uncle." The orchestra began playing again, cutting their conversation short as the next group of dancers took the stage. Ryan found herself oddly aware of Tyler's presence beside her throughout the performance, the subtle scent of his cologne, the way he leaned forward slightly during his niece's performance, his genuine applause for each child. After the recital ended and the auditorium lights came back up, the audience dispersed to find their young performers. Ryan helped Emma collect Lily and present her with a small bouquet of pink roses. "You were amazing, sweetheart," Ryan exclaimed, hugging her niece tightly. As they were preparing to leave, Ryan felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Tyler standing there, his hand resting on Sophia's shoulder. "Miss Richards, did you see me?" Sophia asked excitedly. "I certainly did. Your arabesque is improving so much, Sophia." "You should be very proud," Ryan replied warmly. "Miss Richards, this is my Uncle Tyler," Sophia said, though they'd already introduced themselves. "He just moved back to town and he's super rich and has a big house with a pool and Sophia," Tyler interrupted gently, looking slightly embarrassed. "I'm sure Miss Richards doesn't need my entire biography." Ryan smiled, amused by Sophia's unfiltered introduction. "It's nice to officially meet you, Mr. Denton. Please call me Tyler," he insisted. Then, with a slight hesitation that seemed out of character for someone so polished, he added, "Actually, I was wondering if I might have a word with you about Sophia's progress. Perhaps over coffee sometime this week." There was something in his expression that suggested this might be more than a parent-teacher conference, and Ryan felt a small flutter of interest. Before she could respond, Lily tugged at her hand. "Aunt Ryan, you promised ice cream," the little girl reminded her. "I did, didn't I?" Ryan laughed, then turned back to Tyler. "I'm free Wednesday afternoon. The cafe across from my studio stays open until 6. "Wednesday works perfectly," Tyler said, his smile widening. 4 o'clock, 4 it is, Ryan agreed. As she walked away with Emma and Lily, she couldn't help but glance back. Tyler was still watching her, and when their eyes met, he gave a small wave that made her smile all the way to the ice cream shop. On Wednesday, Ryan found herself changing outfits 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft green sweater that brought out the color in her eyes. She told herself it was ridiculous to be nervous. This was just a conversation about a student. Yet something in Tyler's manner had suggested more. The cafe was quiet when she arrived, and she chose a table by the window, ordering a cappuccino while she waited. At precisely 4 o'clock, the door opened and Tyler walked in. He traded his formal suit for more casual attire, dark blue jeans, and a light gray button-down that still managed to look expensive. He spotted her immediately and walked over with confident strides. "Right on time," Ryan remarked as he sat down. "Military father," Tyler explained with a small shrug. "Punctuality was practically a religion in our household." After ordering his coffee, Tyler seemed to relax, leaning back in his chair. "I should confess something," he began. "I don't actually have any urgent questions about Sophia's dance progress." Ryan raised an eyebrow. No, he admitted, a hint of color touching his cheeks. "I just wanted an excuse to talk with you. My sister Lisa told me I was being ridiculous and should just ask you out properly, but I haven't done this in a while." His candor was disarming, and Ryan found herself smiling. "Done what? Asked a woman out for coffee." "Asked out anyone I was genuinely interested in getting to know," he clarified. "The last few years have been complicated." There was a story there, Ryan sensed, but she didn't press. Instead, she said, "Well, I'm here and we have coffee, so why don't you tell me about yourself, Tyler Denton? Starting with what brings you back to town, since Sophia mentioned you just moved back." Tyler's expression relaxed. "I grew up here but left for college and ended up staying away for almost 20 years. I built my company in New York, Denton Enterprises. We specialize in sustainable construction materials." So Sophia wasn't exaggerating about the super rich part, Ryan teased lightly. Tyler winced slightly. "Kids and their lack of filter. Yes, the company has done well, but I missed being close to family. When my father passed away last year, it made me reevaluate things. I opened a branch office here and moved back 3 months ago." "I'm sorry about your father," Ryan said sincerely. "Thank you," Tyler replied, his eyes warming at her genuine sympathy. "Now it's your turn. How does someone become the owner of a dance academy in Oakwood? Were you always a dancer?" Ryan nodded, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. "Since I was 4, I was actually with the Boston Ballet for several years after college." Tyler looked impressed. "Professional ballet." "That's remarkable." "Until I tore my ACL at 26, Ryan continued. "That ended my performance career, but I discovered I loved teaching even more than performing. When the opportunity came to buy the studio here 5 years ago, it felt right. Being close to Emma and Lily was a bonus." Their conversation flowed easily from there, moving from career paths to favorite books, films they'd recently seen, and places they'd traveled. Ryan was surprised to discover how much they had in common despite their different backgrounds. Tyler was well-read and thoughtful, listening intently when she spoke, asking questions that showed genuine interest. Before either realized it, 2 hours had passed, and the cafe was beginning to fill with the dinner crowd. "I should probably let you get back to your evening," Tyler said. Though he made no move to leave, Ryan hesitated, then decided to be bold. "Actually, I haven't had dinner yet. There's a great Italian place just down the block if you're interested." The smile that lit up Tyler's face was answer enough. "I'd like that very much." Dinner extended their conversation further. And Ryan found herself sharing stories she rarely told anyone about the day she realized her professional dancing career was over, about her parents' difficult divorce when she was a teenager, about her dreams of expanding her dance academy to include programs for children with disabilities. Tyler, in turn, spoke of the early struggles building his company, the pressure of success, and his recent realization that work had consumed too much of his life. "It sounds like we've both reached turning points recently," Ryan observed as they shared a tiramisu for dessert. "It does," Tyler agreed. "Maybe that's why we met now instead of years ago." His words held a weight of possibility that made Ryan's heart beat a little faster. By the time he walked her to her car, there was no awkwardness, only a comfortable sense that something significant had begun. "I'd like to see you again," Tyler said, standing close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his brown eyes. "Properly this time, no pretenses about discussing dance students," Ryan smiled. "I'd like that too." Their first official date was that weekend dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking the river. Ryan wore a simple black dress that she'd splurged on years ago for a fundraiser, and Tyler's appreciative gaze when he picked her up made her glad she'd kept it. "You look beautiful," he said, handing her a small bouquet of lilies. "Thank you," she replied, touched by the gesture. "How did you know lilies are my favorite?" Lily mentioned it at the recital, he admitted with a grin. "I pay attention." That much was clear throughout their evening. Tyler listened, really listened, as she spoke. He remembered details from their coffee conversation, asked follow-up questions about her plans for the dance academy, and shared his own thoughts without dominating the discussion. By their third date, a symphony performance that left Ryan breathless with its beauty, it felt as though they'd known each other for years rather than weeks. Their goodbye that night ended with their first kiss, gentle at first, then deepening with an intensity that surprised them both. "I should go," Ryan murmured against his lips, though she made no move to step back from where they stood on her porch. "You should," Tyler agreed, his hands still resting lightly at her waist. "But I don't want you to," she laughed softly. "We have time, I'm not going anywhere." The promise in those words seemed to satisfy him, and he kissed her once more before reluctantly stepping back. "Lunch tomorrow. I'll be at the studio until 2, meet me there." He nodded, and Ryan watched him drive away, her fingers touching her lips where the sensation of his kiss still lingered. Over the next few months, their relationship deepened. Ryan met Tyler's sister Lisa properly, and was relieved to find she was nothing like the intimidating figure she'd imagined. Instead, Lisa was warm and down to earth, clearly delighted that her brother had found someone who made him smile again. "I haven't seen him this happy in years," Lisa confided one afternoon when Tyler had taken Sophia and Lily to get ice cream after dance class. "After his divorce, I worried he'd never open up to anyone again." "Divorce?" Ryan asked, surprised. Tyler had mentioned a serious relationship that ended badly, but not marriage. Lisa's expression fell. "He didn't tell you. It was 5 years ago. Caroline left him for his former business partner. It was ugly." The information explained so much Tyler's initial hesitancy, his occasional guarded moments when discussions turned to the past. When he returned with the girls, Ryan found herself studying him with new understanding, noticing the subtle way his shoulders tensed when Lisa gave him a pointed look. Later that evening, as they walked along the river path near Ryan's apartment, she gently broached the subject. "Lisa mentioned your ex-wife today," she said quietly. Tyler stopped walking, his expression shuddering briefly before he sighed. "I should have told you sooner, It's not a period of my life I'm proud of. You don't have to be ashamed of being divorced, Tyler." "It's not the divorce itself," he explained, resuming their walk at a slower pace. "It's how I handled it or didn't handle it. I threw myself into work, shut everyone out. Became exactly the kind of cold, distant workaholic my father was." He looked at her directly. "The man I promised myself I'd never become." Ryan reached for his hand, threading her fingers through his. "But you recognized it and changed. That matters. Meeting you has helped," he admitted. "You remind me there's more to life than balance sheets and board meetings." She bumped his shoulder playfully. "Glad to be of service." His expression grew serious as he stopped and turned to face her. "I'm falling in love with you, Ryan. I think I started falling that first day at the recital, watching you fix your niece's ribbon with such care." The words sent warmth spreading through her chest. "I'm falling in love with you too," she confessed, her voice soft but certain. The kiss that followed sealed something between them, a promise, a beginning. As summer faded into fall, their relationship continued to flourish. Tyler became a regular fixture at Ryan's dance academy, often stopping by with coffee or lunch when she worked late. He helped her draft a business proposal for the inclusive dance program she dreamed of launching, using his business expertise to turn her passionate vision into a viable plan. Ryan, in turn, brought balance to Tyler's life. She persuaded him to leave work at reasonable hours, introduced him to the simple pleasure of Sunday picnics in the park, and gave him space to rebuild relationships with friends he'd neglected during his workaholic years. They had disagreements, of course. Tyler's protective instinct sometimes manifested as trying to solve problems Ryan was perfectly capable of handling herself. Ryan's independent streak occasionally made her reluctant to accept help even when she needed it. But they learned to navigate these differences with respect and growing understanding. One crisp October evening, Tyler invited Ryan to his home for dinner. Though she'd been to his house many times over the past months, something about his manner that night felt different, a nervous energy behind his usual confidence. "Is everything okay?" she asked as she helped him prepare the salad, noticing how he'd checked his phone several times. "Everything's perfect," he assured her with a quick kiss. Just waiting for a business call that might come tonight, Ryan accepted the explanation, though she suspected there was more to his distraction. After a delicious dinner he'd clearly worked hard to prepare, Tyler suggested a walk in his garden, which overlooked the city lights below. The night air was cool but not cold, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Tyler had installed small lights along the garden path that twinkled like earthbound stars, creating a magical atmosphere. "This is beautiful," Ryan said, admiring how the garden had transformed since she'd first seen it months ago. What had been a neglected space was now thriving with plants and flowers, many of which she recognized as varieties she'd mentioned liking. "I have something to show you," Tyler said, leading her toward a section of the garden hidden behind a trellis covered in climbing roses. As they rounded the corner, Ryan gasped. In the center of a small circular patio stood a miniature dance floor, complete with a ballet bar and mirrors. Soft lighting illuminated the space, and a small sound system was discreetly positioned nearby. "Tyler," she breathed, stepping onto the polished wood floor. "What is this? You mentioned once that you missed having a space to dance just for yourself," he explained, watching her face. "This is your space whenever you want it." Tears pricked at Ryan's eyes as she turned in a slow circle, taking in the thoughtfulness of the gift. "This must have cost. It's not about the money," Tyler interrupted gently. "It's about giving you back something you love." Ryan moved to him and wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing him deeply. "Thank you. This is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me." Tyler held her close, then stepped back slightly. "There's one more thing." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Ryan's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by small diamonds. "You once told me green reminds you of new beginnings," Tyler said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Ryan Richards, you've brought light and joy and purpose back into my life. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Ryan could only stare at the ring, her heart pounding. Then she looked up at the man she'd come to love so deeply in such a relatively short time, the man who listened to her dreams and remembered her favorite flowers, who challenged her and supported her in equal measure. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, I'll marry you." Tyler's face broke into a radiant smile as he slid the ring onto her finger, then lifted her in a joyful embrace, spinning her around on the dance floor he'd built for her. When he set her down, he pressed a button on a remote, and soft music filled the air, the same piece from the ballet recital where they'd first met. "May I have this dance?" he asked, extending his hand with a formal bow that made her laugh through happy tears. Always, Ryan replied, placing her hand in his. They married the following spring, exactly 1 year after they'd first met at the ballet recital. The ceremony was held in the community center, transformed with flowers and twinkling lights. Lily and Sophia served as flower girls, proudly scattering rose petals down the aisle before Ryan walked toward Tyler, radiant in a simple satin gown that allowed her to dance at the reception later. Their vows were personal and heartfelt. Tyler promised to always make space for her dreams alongside his own. Ryan vowed to remind him of life's simple joys and to dance with him through whatever challenges they faced. As they shared their first dance as husband and wife, Tyler whispered, "Did you ever imagine that day at the recital where we'd end up?" Ryan shook her head, smiling up at him. "Never, but I'm so glad you sat in that seat next to me." "Best seat assignment of my life," Tyler agreed, spinning her gently before pulling her close again. 6 months after their wedding, Ryan's inclusive dance program launched with funding from the Denton Foundation, which Tyler had established to support community arts and education. The program quickly became her passion, providing dance classes for children with physical and developmental challenges. On their first anniversary, they celebrated by attending Lily and Sophia's ballet recital. Now both were in the advanced class. As they sat in the same seats where they'd met, Tyler reached over and took Ryan's hand. "Happy anniversary," he whispered, kissing her knuckles just above where her wedding ring gleamed. "The first of many," Ryan replied, leaning against his shoulder. Later that evening, after congratulating the girls on their performance and sending them off for a sleepover with Lisa, Tyler and Ryan returned home to celebrate privately. They danced barefoot in the garden studio, now their favorite place to end each day. "I have an anniversary gift for you," Ryan said as the music ended. "You already gave me that watch at dinner," Tyler reminded her, puzzled. "This isn't that kind of gift," Ryan explained, her eyes shining with joy. She took his hand and placed it gently against her stomach. "In about 7 months, our duet is going to become a trio." Tyler stared at her in wonder, then let out a whoop of joy, lifting her carefully and spinning her around before setting her down with sudden concern. "Should I not have done that? Are you okay?" Ryan laughed, cupping his face between her hands. "I'm perfectly fine. We're perfectly fine." As Tyler knelt to press a reverent kiss to her still flat stomach, Ryan ran her fingers through his hair, overcome with happiness. From an unexpected meeting at a children's ballet recital to this moment of pure joy, life had a way of choreographing the most beautiful dances when you least expected them. "I love you," Tyler murmured, rising to his feet and drawing her close. "And I love you," Ryan replied, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the music to which she would happily dance for the rest of her life. 5 years later, they stood again in the community center, this time watching their own 4-year-old daughter, Eliza, perform in her first ballet recital. Her small feet didn't always land precisely on the marks, and her tutu tilted slightly to one side, but her face shone with joy as she spotted her parents in the audience. Beside them sat Emma and her husband, along with a now teenaged Lily who had followed in her aunt's footsteps and was serious about ballet. On Tyler's other side, Lisa and Sophia applauded enthusiastically as Eliza attempted a wobbly pirouette. "She has your grace," Tyler whispered to Ryan, his eyes never leaving their daughter. "And your determination," Ryan replied, squeezing his hand. "Remember how many times she got up yesterday when she kept falling." After the recital, they presented Eliza with a tiny bouquet of lilies, just as they had done for Lily years ago. As they walked toward the exit, Ryan paused at the row where she and Tyler had first sat together. "Sentimental?" Tyler asked, noticing her gaze. "Just thinking about how a single moment can change everything," she replied. "One seat assignment, and here we are." Tyler smiled, wrapping his arm around her waist as Eliza danced ahead of them, still in her costume. "Best seat in the house," he said, echoing words from long ago. "It always has been, as long as it's next to you." As they stepped outside into the sunshine, Eliza ran back to them, her small hand slipping into Ryan's. "Did I dance good, Mommy?" "Beautifully," Ryan assured her, lifting her daughter into her arms. Tyler embraced them both, creating a circle of love that had begun with a chance meeting and a child's untied ribbon, proof that sometimes the most unexpected encounters lead to the most beautiful dances of all.